All right, I will call to order the public meeting for the regularly scheduled public meeting for Tuesday, October 25th of the Zoning Hearing Board. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, next item on the agenda is opening comments and solicitor announcements.
Housekeeping items. If anybody here tonight is, well, let's start at the beginning. There are two ways to participate in tonight's hearings before the Zoning Hearing Board. The first is public comment. Public comment will be offered at the end of each application for any member of the public to rise, give your name, and offer any comments you have, either in support or in opposition to the matter before the Zoning Hearing Board. The second way to participate is party status. Party status is an elevated way of participation if you have some particular interest in the application. You can request party status be recognized by the board. We'll ask for your name, some other information, and what party status affords you is the right to ask questions of the applicant's witnesses, offer your own evidence, and receive a copy of the decision as well as a right to appeal. If you are planning on requesting party status for any of the hearings tonight, there is a form up on the front table that we would ask you to fill out in advance of that appeal being called so that we can have your information to accurately include you in the record. That's not if you're an applicant, that's just if you are seeking party status on an application. Yeah, I believe that's it. We have no further announcements or continuances. Oh, yeah. And prior to this meeting, the board did meet in executive session to discuss questions of law.
All right, we'll move on to our agenda. The first item on the agenda is Appeal 8-1 of 22, application of Len Bagley. Applicant appeals the July 13th, 2022 determination from the Township Zoning Officer regarding the location of a fence pursuant to Section 550-39B4. In the alternative, they seek a variance from Section 550-39B4 to permit the placement of a fence in a matter that obstructs the view of traffic. The property is situated at 336 Edmonds Avenue in Drexel Hill, PA. It's in the R3 Residential District and in the 5th Council District.
Before we begin, we will mark some exhibits. ZHB1 will be the application packet. ZHB2 will be the violation photos. ZHB3 will be notice photos. And ZHB4 will be the proof of publication. Because this is an appeal, I believe we have the township solicitor present.
Absolutely.
Ms. Richardson. And is the property owner also present? You don't have to come forward at this time. The way this will work for your information is because this is an appeal of the zoning officer, or the violation, and the zoning officer's determination, the township will go first and present their case to defend the issuance of the violation. So Ms. Richardson will put on her case any witnesses she presents. You'll have the right to cross-examine. And then once she's finished, you'll have the opportunity to put on any testimony or evidence you want to offer. Okay? So Ms. Richardson, you can proceed.
Okay, good evening. At this point, the township would like to call Mr. Joshua Chass, who is the zoning officer who issued the notice of violation. Okay, would you?
Can you raise your hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chass, if you could please state your name and position for the record.
I am Joshua Chast. I'm the Assistant Director of License and Inspections and the Zoning Officer.
How long have you served in this position?
In License and Inspections, about 1.5 years, and as Zoning Officer, about 9 months.
And Mr. Chast, are you familiar with the property located at 336 Edmonds in Drexel Hill, PA?
Yes.
Okay, how are you familiar?
I've been to the property several times in regards to a violation that we received.
Okay. And to your recollection, when do you remember first going to the property?
Oh. Can I look at notes? If
Absolutely.
that's all right. It was probably 1 year ago.
Are you, Mr. Chast, just for clarification for the record, are you looking at the complaint entry maintenance or the request form regarding this property?
I was just looking at some general notes that I had jotted down. If I can find it, sorry.
Mr. Chast, are you familiar with the records request forms and the complaint request forms that is used by the township?
Yes,
If I provided you a copy of that, would you recognize that document?
yes,
What I would like to do is provide Mr. Chast with a copy of the township request form, providing a copy to the zoning hearing board and to the owner of the property. And I'd like to mark this as Township 1.
So marked.
Thank you.
This is the request form? Is that?
Yes, this is the initial request form regarding when Mr. Chast might have first visited the property.
if you could just give me a few minutes, I do want to clarify, because I did go earlier. It was initially, I think, about 1 year ago, given to one of our code enforcement officers, and he called me on to come in and check it out to see if it might be over the property line. Wasn't able to make a determination at that time, and then it came in again, I believe sometime in June or July. And when it came in then, it was assigned to me, because I had had some involvement in it before. And the code enforcement officer that it was assigned to had since left Upper Darby. So this is when I picked it up, and that's when I visited the site and then sent the violation notice shortly after. Thank you.
Okay, let the record reflect that I provided a copy of the complaint, the request line form to Mr. Chast, to the board, and to the property owner. Mr. Chast, what is this document?
This is the request form that is given to L&I staff from our request department. This is what comes in with the violation. So sorry, this is actually the original one that was given and originally assigned to a different inspector, but then later reassigned to me when it came up again in June. So I believe this is, I think 10/22/21.
Okay. And if you could just read into the record what the document shares.
So the document is requesting an illegal fence in the front and side yard, side with black covering, and is 6 feet high. That's the request.
Thank you. Mr. Chast, is this a fair and accurate representation of the documentation in the L&I system, in the license inspection system, excuse me?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Chast, can you clarify exactly what a definition of an illegal fence would be?
A fence that is non-conforming per ordinance.
And in this case, how was the fence non-conforming?
The fence was non-conforming only in the fact that it was blocking access to a drive, or is blocking the view of a driveway. As far as it being 6 feet high, that's fine.
And Mr. Mr. Chas, did you take any pictures of the property?
I did.
Okay. For the record, the zoning hearing board has marked the violation photos as ZHB2. We're referencing ZHB2.
We marked the photos
The
as
photos.
ZHB2. If there's did you say photos or notice?
Photos.
Yes, they're marked as ZHB2.
Yes, thank you. And in terms of the photos that you took of the particular property, what have you noticed, Mr. Chas?
So when I got the complaint, I essentially wanted to put myself in the perspective of the complainant. So I backed my car into the driveway and I pulled it up and I stopped the car at the point where I could see the road, see traffic on both sides. And then that's where I got out and I took a picture of what I could see from the driver's side and then what you would see as a car coming in from the alleyway. And those are the 4 pictures that I have. Sure, those are the 4 pictures that I posted. So the one is the view from as far as I had to go to see, and then the next is the view of where the car is. So I pulled it up to where I could see, stopped it, got out, took a picture.
Mr. Chas, and what did you learn from taking those photos?
That I agreed that the fence did pose an issue in the visibility to pedestrians and vehicles when exiting and entering the driveway.
And Mr. Chas, did you do anything as a result of that? Mr. Chas, did you do anything as a result of that observation?
I sent a violation warning letter and a zoning hearing board variance application.
Okay. Okay. Let the record reflect that I'm showing Mr. Chas, the zoning hearing board, the July 13, 2022 letter.
Thank you.
For clarity for the records, was that document included in the application packet or no? Was the
This was
enforcement letter?
not included in the application
Okay,
packet.
so we would like to mark that as Township
2.
2. Okay, Mr. Chas, what is this document in front of you?
This is a zoning enforcement letter signed by myself that was sent, I believe, a day or 2 after I went to the site.
And why did you issue this letter?
I issued this letter because I found the fence to be in violation of Article X, Section 550-39B4.
And what does that section read?
That section reads, "No fence may be constructed, erected, and/or maintained so that traffic from intersecting streets, driveways, or alleys will be obscured from view, thereby endangering the public health, safety, and welfare." And then I wrote, "The fence must be moved towards the house, away from the alley, to allow for the safety of vehicles and pedestrians."
Okay.
And Ms. Richardson, I apologize. I just want to correct for the record that T2 is part of the application packet, but we'll still mark it separately as T2 for reference.
Thank you. And Mr. Chas, is this a fair and accurate representation of the letter that was provided to Mr. Bagley?
Yes.
And what if any remedies did Mr. Bagley have regarding this notice?
The remedy in this case was to move the fence back, move towards the house away from the alley to allow for the safety of vehicles and pedestrians.
Was that done?
Was that what?
Was the fence moved back from the
It
property?
was not.
No further questions.
All right, Mr. Bagley, if you'd like to come forward and ask, this is your opportunity to ask Mr. Chast any questions.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Chess, when you came out back in October with Clem and Measured.
Yes.
When we spoke, you said that, what did you say needed to be done? You said something needed to be done. It wasn't about the fence. It was, I can't think of the word. I'm sorry. I'm a little flustered right now. I'm a little upset because of what's going on. First and foremost, the legal fence in the front and the side, the fence is on the side and in the rear.
Hold on, just a sec. You'll have an opportunity to make statements to the board.
Okay, I'm
This
sorry.
is just questions for Mr. Chess. So
Oh,
you
I
can
wanna-
ask him any
I want to
questions.
know what happened in between the time that you came out with Clem and the 9 months that it took you to come back out and actually give me a citation for my fence. Like, what happened after the conversation that we had that everything was okay?
So I believe nothing happened. And then eventually the gentleman working on your case was no longer left the township, and I think it got forgotten. And then it got brought to my attention and reassigned to me with another complaint came in.
But nothing changed in the 8 months since you had came out there.
That's correct.
You was a supervisor at that point. So you were still on the case. You told me this. I have text in my phone, so either you lied or something's going on.
Mr. Bagley, just
I
let,
just want, I'm
on,
sorry,
hold
I shouldn't be here. This
hold on,
is crazy.
Mr. Bagley. Just let Mr. Chess answer the questions that you ask him, and then we
apologize.
will
I'll
give you
slow
an
down.
opportunity to make statements to the board, okay?
I'll slow down, I'm sorry.
So I was the assistant director of license and inspections at the initial time. But since we restructured, I'm still the assistant director, but now I deal with planning and zoning. Code enforcement is no longer under me. It's under our assistant director of code enforcement.
That's all I wanted to know from you.
Board, questions for Mr. Chest?
I guess just to follow up with, I guess, what was said, the violation was still current, it just wasn't actively being worked on, is that correct? In that 8-month period, it was still, the fence was still in violation, correct?
Right,
was-
nothing changed. Yeah.
Okay.
Violation notice should be given in that point, shouldn't it?
Josh, what type of vehicle were you using to make the judgment of it? I mean, a Fiat has a different front end than a truck.
Sure. I believe it was a Ford Escape.
Ford Escape. Thank you.
Is it true that you at one point told him that it wasn't a problem?
No, I told him that we didn't know where the property lines were.
So to follow up on that question, under 550-39B4, are the locations of the property line a relevant factor in that provision of the code?
The way it's written, no. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Other questions from the board?
No, I don't have any.
You are entitled.
Mr. Chess, Mr. Bagley brought up a few things about the timeline in which you first came out, or someone from LNI first came out to the property versus when he received a citation. So I'd like to ask you some questions to clarify the timeline. So when is the first time then you were alerted that there was a problem or a violation at this property?
It would have been around the time listed on the complaint, which I believe was October of '21. Should have been about then that Clement, one of our old code enforcement officers, was working on the case and asked me to come out and take a look to see if we could establish where the property lines were, which we were not able to do. There were no pins or markers or anything that we could find to.
So, Mr. Chess, since you were unable to establish the property line, can you explain why there was a violation provided to Mr. Bagley?
Why there was what?
A violation provided to Mr. Bagley? Why did you write a notice of violation?
Well, that was after I came back and we actually got a complaint saying that, well, it's not necessarily that it's not on the property line, it's that I can't see out of my driveway. It was a part of the equation that I hadn't considered. And that's why,
Yeah.
yeah. Sure. So when I got reassigned to it in what probably would have been early July of 2022, the complaint was because they couldn't see out of their driveway, which is why when I went and did my inspection and took those pictures, I did it from the point of view of somebody coming out of the driveway. Not necessarily, is this fence, right, legal, in regards to the property line, which we were never able to determine.
So did somebody complain, one of the neighbors complain that they couldn't get?
Yes.
So, Mr. Chas, after you did the site inspection in July, what did you determine from that site inspection?
That it was in violation of Article X, Section 550-39B4.
And how did you make that determination?
Like I said, I put the car into the driveway and then moved it to the point where I could see, and then realized that this actually is blocking the point of view from pedestrians and vehicle traffic.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Bagley, based on that testimony, do you have any other questions for Mr. Chast? Okay. Other questions from the board
Yeah,
for Mr. Chast?
I do. How much traffic is along this, because it's a back driveway, right? How much traffic is there?
Well, there's only a few houses, but it connects directly to the firehouse. It borders to the firehouse, so there's fire trucks going through. I believe they get their gas there. And then anybody that would be coming to a fire call could possibly come through there as well. And then there's the odd, probably 10 houses that would use that street, maybe 5 on each side, maybe a little less.
Do you have a question? So I just want to make sure it's clear for the board. This initial complaint that we marked as T1, which I guess is dated October 22nd, 21. Very odd format, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The request states illegal fence in front and side with black covering and is 6 foot high. Was it your testimony that that initial complaint was because it was alleged that the fence was not on the property at 336 Edmonds? Like it was over the property line, it was an encroachment?
I think that, which again, we weren't able to determine, and just the height of the fence, I think, was the issue. But in fact, you can have a 6-foot high fence in the rear yard, so that really wasn't the issue, the height of it.
I'm just trying to have it be clear for the board where the property line determination issue came into play.
It looks like it's over the property line, but we can't determine it one way or another.
So you received
And that's where a lot of times I will go out if one of the guys need help, one of the code enforcement officers need help figuring out where a property line is, because I do a lot of map reading and work with a lot of the county parcels.
So the request was generally, we think this, from a resident was, I think this fence is illegal in some way. Can you come out and look at it?
Essentially.
And you went out just to make a determination if there was anything improper with that was not compliant with the fence at that time.
Right, not compliant and really looking at the property, trying to figure out the property lines.
And at the initial inspection, you didn't determine anything non-compliant at that time?
That's correct.
But you were, at that point, looking at the property line issue, not the visibility issue.
Right, I was trying to measure the width of the alley and look for pins and markers and see where that line compared to some of the other driveway lines.
And then subsequently, a neighbor complained about visibility, and that's where we are now.
Correct, that's what my complaint is built on. My
So-
violation is built on.
Is there a second complaint then?
No, they just reissued the first one.
So there's not a second version of this?
No, because it was never closed. And I think it was never, I mean, I can only speculate based on the old code enforcement officers no longer here, but I think it was never closed because we never got to figure out where the property lines were. And things do slip through the cracks as far as continuity when there's turnover.
Yeah.
Ms. Richardson, do you have anything else to present on behalf of the township?
Mr. Bagley, do you have, present your case?
So you are welcome to call any witnesses, or if you're going to present your own testimony, we'll have you sworn in, and then you can present whatever testimony you'd like.
I have photos as well.
You can, are they photos you've taken?
Yeah, from my phone, I have Ring camera videos and everything. This whole situation.
Hold on, wait a second. Are they in a form that you can present to the board tonight, or
I have everything, what can I email it to you guys, or?
you could
I can
send
zip
it to Mr. Chast, and we can see if we can get that in a presentable form.
Okay.
So we'll go off the record for a second.
Yeah, I can just send it to me through email and then I'll put it up on the screen if that works. Is that where we're going with it?
Yeah,
Okay. Let me just pull my email up.
then I would ask that you add them to the file.
Okay.
I'm just gonna send the one, that's all that's really needed. The gate actually straddles the line of the property.
We're not on the record at the moment, so.
All right, well, I'm ready.
So it's sent?
Yeah.
Okay, we can go back on the record, and then if we can have Mr. Bagley sworn in.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, so you can offer any testimony, and when Mr. Chast has that video ready, he can let us know, and then you can,
It's just a photo.
or a photo, and then you can describe that for the record
Okay,
as well.
so all this initially began, like before the fence went up and everything, with a neighbor that moved in. The guys parked in. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay, all this initially began when our neighbor on Burmont Road, 337 Burmont, moved in. This guy's like a hoarder. He parks in the middle of the road, and he actually is the one that's blocking the fire department's garage in the gas pump. I put the gate up because this guy assaulted me, sprayed me in my face with Freon, and I had to defend myself. The cops did nothing. Joshua knows about this guy. I've been reporting this person to code enforcement in LNI for over a year. Pictures, emails, texts, everything. Joshua, when he came out there and gave me the citation, when Joshua came to give me the citation for the fence, the guy was actually parked illegally, and he just completely overlooked that. No one looked into what I was saying until I hired an attorney to represent me because I felt I was being discriminated against. The lady who called in about the fence, Miss Claire that lives next door to me, she goes upstairs to the second floor and she called the cops on me because I have a paintball gun in my yard. Black man with a gun trying to get me assassinated. So nothing happened. She called him again. Oh, he's shooting towards the firehouse. Nothing happened. This is all about people trying to control what I do in my space. I wanted some privacy and I needed protection because nobody's going to protect my stuff, my family, and myself from the maniac across from me. Y'all gave this guy a citation. Joshua gave him a citation. It's still on the pole. He took the citation and wiped his butt with it and put it back on the tree. It's there right now. This guy's a maniac. But everything is about my fence and my tarp. This lady's trying to get me killed. And this guy's going along with it. The fact that he came back, just like I said, to appease her, that's a problem. That's discriminatory practices right there. If you couldn't tell me what was going on 8 months ago, you can't come back with your pickup truck and pull in and out and stay in there for 45 minutes and tell me, oh, this is unsafe. What about my safety? She can get a driveway mirror. My fence is 6 feet high. There's nothing wrong with my fence. That's all I really have to say. If you could pull the picture up, I'll show them. There you go. My fence straddles the driveway straight down right next to hers.
Can you describe the angle that we're looking at in this picture?
The angle is looking down the driveway towards Joan, what's that? I can't think of the name.
So when you say looking down the driveway, this is the driveway that's
This is the-
immediately past your,
Yeah, this is the driveway that's right next to mine. This is the lady Claire's. Her problem is, you see, all right, there's a tire in the background right there. You see it?
Mhm.
All right, it's a car right there. Didn't used to be a car there. The neighbors put a car there, made it hard for her to back out. The neighbors parked their car there. They got a second car for their daughter. She said this to me. It makes it hard for her to back out. But blame the black guy. It's easier to get it done. he shows it.
So, Mr. Bagley, so what you're saying is the fence is your fence. The open area of stone that we're looking at is your neighbor's driveway, and then where the cars are parked, I see a
Yeah, that's
tire and then
two.
a second car. That's a third driveway?
That's the driveway across from us, yeah. And the one next to him, that's the guy that's crazy. His bushes are up 8 feet tall. It's over my fence, and he has a tree right there, and he pulls in and out the yard as a hazard. This is something I've been complaining about. But again, all I get is harassed about a fence that I put up to protect my property. Right after he gave me the citation for the fence, I got a citation to repair the potholes outside the fence caused by the guy. So I can't protect my property, but I got to pay for the damages? Like, this, make it make sense, please.
So
Yeah, I mean, there are specific sections in the code, which is, I think, what is being referenced. So it does say that you cannot block sight distance. So I was just wondering if, when you,
I'm not blocking anything. I
I'm-
have video of her backing out her
excuse me,
driveway
sir,
easily.
when I'm
sorry.
asking you a question,
Sorry, go ahead.
when Mr. Chass came out and you found that it was a sight distance issue, did you make any repairs to the fence? I mean, there's the black tarp on there, which obviously does block visibility.
That's a
Was there-
loaded question.
Well-
Did I
Let her
make repairs
finish,
or
please.
Well,
anything? That's
I'm-
loaded. I didn't
Mr.
find
Bagley,
anything
please-
wrong.
Mr. Bagley,
Miss-
please let her finish.
You have there was a violation determined by Mr. Chass.
Shaky at best.
Okay, well, it's in the code and it says that you cannot block sight distance on alleyways. So was there anything done to your fence that maybe made it more compliant? I think that there would be ways that you could still have the fence. We're not denying,
Why
or
do-
Mr. Chast was not denying that the 6-foot fence could not be there.
Okay,
He's
so-
just saying as part of the code, there's a code of the township that has certain requirements for the fence.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those things is that you can't block sight distance.
I'm not blocking sight distance. She has a Honda Accord. The truck he put it in, took it in, was way different than what she has. Number two, my Tahoe was parked back there on the regular before that fence was put up there like that. She couldn't see past my Tahoe either. This is what I'm saying. This is all about controlling my space. And as far as making any corrections, I didn't find anything wrong with my fence. We didn't find any issue with a property line. As far as I'm concerned, this was still on my property. She
But there
can back
was-
out easily.
There was a violation that was issued that said that there was a sight distance issue.
And what I'm saying is his boss came out to my yard, Daniel, and he told me there was nothing wrong with my fence. He's the one who got rid of the citations outside of my gate. So there was no issue. This was him pandering to the neighbor because she kept complaining. Nobody else complained except her. So I didn't find anything wrong with my fence. And I'm not going to stay in here and say I did.
Well, there was a violation issued. So when the violation was issued, that's what I'm asking. Did you do anything to correct that violation?
What was it to do to correct? What did I need to
The
do?
sight distance.
And
He-
how would I do
The
that?
zoning officer has determined through the violation that there was an issue with sight distance
I
on the
don't
fence.
know what you want me to say. I don't.
So, I mean, you didn't make any changes to the fence.
I didn't make any changes from the 8 months that it took for him to come back out.
I mean, timing is what it is. I'm just asking, there was a violation.
Can-
Was there anything to do, did you do anything to resolve the violation?
Ma'am, I don't know what you want me to say to you. The fence is what it was when they came out, when him and.
So you
Clem-
didn't resolve any of the
Clem
issues.
came
That's why
out,
we're here.
and then he asked Josh to come out and measure with him. They measured everything. The fence hasn't changed in the 8 months since he came back out and pandered and catered to my neighbor, is what I'm saying. Nothing changed.
Mr. Bagley, so I think what Aaron is saying, did you do anything to address the site issue? So correct me if I'm wrong, looks like it's a cyclone fence with a tarp. So
I
you're,
put the tarp up because nothing has been done about the neighbor across the yard. He parks in his yard and puts his high beams directly on the back of my house. The cops come out and they say, we can't do anything because it's a code enforcement issue. Code enforcement tell me they can't do anything because it's a police officer issue. Like I said, nothing happened until I called my attorney and I sued the township.
So, Mr. Bagley, just to focus us a little bit, I understand that you have certain complaints or issues with how the township may have handled issues that you've brought up to them. This board only has jurisdiction over provisions of the zoning code.
Can I give you guys a
Hold
better
on,
picture?
let me finish, please.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The The only issue we're really talking about here is the placement of the fence as it relates to how your neighbors can safely pull in and out of their driveways.
And that's
Okay?
what I'm saying.
So I understand that there's other issues and there may be other reasons as to why you've constructed the type of fence you did. But we're really only, this board can only make a judgment call based on the placement of the fence and how it may or may not obstruct view.
We still haven't found property lines. So even if even if it's on my property, it's a problem.
That
So,
may be true.
No, and number two, I put the fence up to protect my property because code enforcement would not do anything. I put the fence up to protect my property because code enforcement or police wouldn't do anything. The guy's parked back there right now. He diverts traffic away from his side of the driveway over to our side. That's a bigger problem than what my fence is. Can I send Joshua another picture?
You
It's a fuller
can.
picture than this.
Mr. Bagley, if you don't mind, Bagley, if I may, before you erected the fence, did you have a property survey done to determine where your property lines are located?
Replaced the old fence and I just closed it in.
I-
There was a pre-existing
There was a
fence going
pre-existing
all the way
fence.
down around. Yeah, I replaced it,
What was the height of the pre-existing fence?
4 feet.
4 feet. Did you place the poles of the new fence in the,
Yes,
basically along the same line of the pre-existing fence?
yes, I did.
Before you erected the fence, did you review the zoning code or talk
was-
to the,
there
talk
were-
to code enforcement, the zoning officer about placing a fence in your backyard?
Yes, I talked to Jim. He works over at the fire department. There were no zoning ordinance in place. He said, long as I didn't erect the fence higher than 6 feet, it was fine.
Jim works at the fire department or does he
Yeah.
work for the
He
township?
works for the township and he works, what's Jim's last name?
Yeah, I can fill him. Jim Hoban works for the fire department. He's the, I believe, fire chief
I
at
have
that station
texts
as
back and
well.
forth.
I'm
between-
sorry, hold on.
I'm sorry.
Is he in license and inspections or a member of the code enforcement department that has jurisdiction over zoning?
No, he doesn't. He's in license and inspections. He does not have jurisdiction over zoning.
Okay.
Sorry. Peggy's trying to get me sick.
When you talked to Jim, did you speak with him as, was he acting on behalf of the township? Or did you speak to him when he was going about his fire department duties?
I don't know.
Oh, did you go and knock on the fire department door and
No,
ask him
no,
questions or
no.
meet him in the parking lot, or were you in this building?
No, he was in the back. He was in the back actually speaking to the guy about the stuff in his yard.
Okay.
He had a bunch of wood and stuff, so I guess he was in his, code enforcement capacity.
Okay.
So,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Okay.
Go ahead.
So from what I'm seeing and hearing, the fence is not the problem, the tarp is the problem. Because you can see through a cyclone fence, you can't see through the black tarp.
She can also get a mirror, a driveway mirror.
There's a section of the code that that says the fence cannot obstruct sight distance in a street or alleyway. Well, it says alleyway too, driveway or alleyway.
Is-
So that's a section of the code that has to be followed per the zoning code.
Can you
Is
show
there
me
a
that?
way you can modify the tarp so that it doesn't obstruct the view of someone backing out of their driveway?
I could, but then that would cut into my privacy from the person that's complaining that keeps calling the police on me. That's the only person that's complaining, the person that keeps calling the police on me, and she's in here today.
But if, the zoning officer testified that he tried and he verified that the tarp is causing an obstruction in the view of someone coming out of that driveway for ongoing traffic. So,
So his word is final?
so is there a way you can modify the tarp so that you can keep the fence and your neighbor can back out safely?
I'll figure something out.
Excuse me?
I said, I'll figure something out. This is wrong. This is wrong.
Can Courtney?
Are you,
We should afford the township the opportunity to ask Mr. Bagley questions as a witness.
Okay.
Mr. Bagley, is there any way possible that you could move the fence back without removing the tarp? Okay, could you explain why?
To move the fence back, I would have to actually take it out the ground. I would have to actually cut the pole and replace it with new poles. And to move the fence back, like I said, I got a citation. To
Oh, I'm
move the
sorry.
fence back-
Okay, okay, we're
To
having,
move the fence back, I can protect my voice. To move the fence back, I would have to actually cut the poles in the fence, and I would have to actually buy new fencing and redo the whole thing. I can remove a portion of the tarp. There's a portion of the tarp that's already gone on one side. I didn't tarp the other side of the gate. But my
So,
thing,
so the tarp isn't permanently affixed to the fence, is it?
it's up. It's on there. But what I'm saying is, there is about a 4-foot section of the gate that the tarp can be removed, and she'll be able to see all the way through.
so,
You've seen the gate, right? On the side of the fire department, there is no tarp on it.
Yeah, I'd have to look, but I think
Yeah,
that sounds
so
right.
If I do the same thing to the other side, we should be able to get past.
Mhm.
And I ain't gotta worry about the idiot flashing his high beam.
so the township is amenable to making some revisions or changes to the fence that makes it not a site hazard, but also protects Mr. Bagley's privacy. We do feel, the township does feel that that is of utmost paramount here in this conversation by hearing Mr. Bagley's concerns. However, we do appreciate that there is another issue going on. So if we could continue this matter for 30 days, for us to see if there's some other things that can happen that would be a little bit more appropriate. Can we do that?
So are you saying, like, continue it so that Mr. Bagley can prepare a proposal to show us how he could make a change that would satisfy everybody?
Yes, that's what I'm asking for of the zoning hearing board.
Yeah.
We're going to recess into executive session briefly. We'll be right back.
Okay.
I love me some popcorn. I just love it. Tell your wife I'm
All right,
come get
we
you.
will go back on the record. Um,
Oh, we still have to do public.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
was there anything else from Mr. Bagley? Sorry.
So we will take public comment now. So if anyone, member of the public, you have to come up to the
Ma'am,
microphone.
Come up to the microphone, please state your name, and we'll have you sworn in.
Hello. My name is Mary Claire Coppa, C-O-P-P-A.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
This is just public comment, right? She can make a
Yes.
statement in support or opposition of
Okay.
the matter that is considered.
Well, I oppose many things that were said because I complained about this fence obstructing my view in October of 2021, very shortly after it was erected. And I could not, because this fence completely obstructs my view of pedestrians that often cut through to go to the Wawa, school children coming to and from school, firemen, anyone driving through the alley. It completely obstructs my view. I have to be in the alley to see someone coming. I would have already hit a car or a person by the time I can see. But I complained about this in October of 2021 to the LNI office, and I couldn't get through to anyone. And then finally, I mean, I called so many times, finally I was told that the inspector is no longer on the case. So finally, after a long time, it was reassigned to another inspector. So the first thing I want to say is that I was on this right away because it was completely obstructing my view. The second thing said tonight that was not true is that poles were put into the existing poles. There was a 4-foot fence about, I guess, about 4 feet from the alley. It didn't end, but Mr. Bagley's fence ends, it almost looked like it's obstructed in the alley or on the line of the alley and Mr. Bagley's property. So he has erected new poles at the property line and the alley. The original 4-foot fence was far back from the alley line. I lived 15 years at my property, never had an obstruction issue, but this fence is like an army barracks fence. It's very tall, and you know, you can't see anything till you're in the alleyway. Let me see, I guess that was about it, except that I'm really glad an obstruction law exists because it makes sense that I should be able to see exiting my driveway. So not only is it a safety hazard, it's also brings down the value of my house because I only can exit from the rear. And any prospective buyer coming to my home, if I want to sell it, it just brings down the value. You can't see exiting my driveway. So that's really the point I wanted to make. So I appeal to you to help me to regain sight when of the pedestrians or the cars. I can't see oncoming traffic at all. It's just you can't see it. So it's a big problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Coppa.
Any other public comments? Okay, seeing none. I know that there was a request by the township for a continuance. I don't necessarily know that it's necessary. I believe we can make, I mean, because there's kind of two actions with this item. There was the determination, the appeal to the determination, and there's also a variance request.
That's correct.
So I think we certainly could put conditions upon that variance request to satisfy maybe, I think what you were looking for, which was, that the township and the applicant come to terms with, the actual site distance and maybe moving the tarp in a way that provides visibility.
That's correct.
So I guess I would,
Two different motions.
yeah, I will make, actually, let me get- so for the first motion, for the determination of the zoning officer, I would make a motion that request is denied. Do I have a second?
What is being
This is-
denied?
So we're the motion is denying the appeal of the zoning officers,
Yeah.
right? Am I
A
stating
denial of
of
the appeal would be upholding the zoning officer's
Okay, okay,
determination.
okay.
Exactly.
All right, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The second part of that would be the variance request. So I would make a motion that we grant the variance request for the fence location, provided that there's a condition that the tarp used on the fence be modified so that site distance is provided in the alleyway to the satisfaction of the township zoning officer. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Therefore, the zoning motion has passed, the variance request.
So, Mr. Bagley, just to put it simply, you can keep the fence. The tarp has to be modified to allow your neighbor site distance in and out of their driveway to the satisfaction of the zoning officer. A decision will be issued within 45 days of tonight, and that will be sent to you. Right? Thank you.
So concludes the township's business in front of the board. May I be excused?
You may.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will move on to appeal number 9-1 of 22, application of Jignesh Kumar Soni for a special exception pursuant to section 550-23C4B to permit a smoke shop in the C3 Commercial District. This property is located at 6948 Market Street in Upper Darby, PA. It's in the C3 Commercial District in the 7th Council District. This hearing is continued from the September 27th, 2022 hearing.
So before we proceed, we'll note that I believe this is reposted, correct?
Yeah,
So
I have the,
we'll mark,
I'm sorry.
we will mark as ZHB4 the posting notice photos for the October 25th, and ZHB5 the proof of publication for the October 25th hearing, since this was renoticed. And also, before we begin, as I stated before we started the first hearing tonight, there will be public comment at the end of the additional testimony that the board requested tonight, but we'll see if there's any additional members of the public who are requesting party status for this application. Seeing none, so oh, okay. Can you raise the phone? Bring it up.
I don't know how you want to mark.
Just a sec. and I'll be the ignorant person here. What's the location of 251 Shirley Road in relation to the property located on Market Street?
I'm sorry, I interpret that as the location of the person filling it out.
That is what I'm asking, yeah. Are you requesting party status on the basis of your proximity to the property or?
Proximity, and I represent, I'm the Southern District Council.
Right, so as a council person, we cannot give you party status on that status alone. You would have
As a
to,
resident, you can.
yes, that's why I was asking the proximity of 251 Shirley related to, what is it, 6948 Market Street. About how far away is that?
I live within walking distance, grew up here my whole life. My family has a restaurant, Kings and Queens, which is not too far from the property.
But
You should see it from the window.
It-
Councilman Hafiz Tunis Jr., H-A-F, Frank I-Z-T-U-N.
So, sir, it's possible we could recognize your status as a private resident. We can't recognize you as a councilman for the purpose of these proceedings. But when you say you are within walking distance from 6948, how many blocks are we talking?
I don't know, 3, 4, I can do I can GPS the walk distance. It's no more than maybe, what, 10 minutes? I'll say 5 feet. I could be wrong. So,
I would recommend to the board to err on the side of caution and recognize party stat. So, hold. Yes?
They'll recommend it on the side of caution. It must be within how many feet?
There is no notice provision under the Upper Darby Code, so therefore that standard is not applicable to these proceedings.
Well, then I think we should put down
And I-
10 feet.
Would you like to note your objection to my recommendation after I finish making it?
Go ahead.
Okay. I would recommend to the board that we recognize party status for Mr. Tunis to proceed with, in the confines of this hearing. Mr. McCreesh, do you have something you want to note for the record?
Yes, you have to have some kind of reason here. This man is a long way away from the center of 69th Street. I mean, he's talking 3 or 4, 10 minutes worth of walking. That's a half a mile.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I don't understand it. That's not
Yeah,
zoning.
You're,
I
do you-
object. Put it on the
okay, you
record.
object. It's on the record. Is there any objection from the board before we proceed? Okay. Madam Chair, I believe where it seems as though Mr. McCreesh and his client have more test. You have party status, Mr. Tunis. Where we left off at the last hearing was a request for Mr. Chast to provide more information to the board. My recommendation would be to start there, and then if there's any additional information Mr. McCreesh wants to put on as part of his case, we can proceed in that manner.
I was just going to introduce the new posting.
We have that as marked already.
You have the new posting?
Yes.
Nice hearing. Okay, good.
Thank you.
So go ahead, Josh.
Okay,
With your
so-
additional findings.
Yeah, so I went to the site of, let me see, I believe it's called Jackpot, Jackpot Convenience. And I took some pictures. I posted those pictures on the drive for the board to see. And I did make the determination that it was at least 20% selling smoke, tobacco, vape, or accessory products, and would be classified as a smoke shop under our code. I'll do it again. I visited on October 10th. I went and I took some pictures and made the determination that it is at least 20%, selling at least 20% of smoke, vape, and accessory products.
Okay. And that,
Would fit the definition of a smoke shop. Yeah, that's correct. And it would be an existing nonconformity because it was a pipe shop before.
So the previous tenant had the same operation, same use.
Roughly, yeah.
Josh, did you also investigate the distance of this existing facility, retail outlet from the proposed location at 6948 Market Street?
I believe I put it on the record last time when I answered. I can look again, but I believe it is under 500.
Be appropriate to let counsel ask Mr. Chast any questions related to that testimony. Mr. McCreesh?
Were you ever in the pipe shop?
Once.
And could you describe the inside of it for us?
Kind of look like a traditional convenience store.
Convenience store.
With
Well, if you were
pipe
in the pipe
products.
shop, if I remember, because I've been going in there since 1970,
Mhm.
down all one side was newspapers, magazines, and articles. Is that correct?
I don't recall, but I will take your word for it.
And where was the tobacco in the pipe shop?
I do not know.
Do you know whether it was 20%?
I do not.
Do you know why they called it the pipe shop?
I assume because they sold.
No, we can't assume, no. Do you know why?
No, why?
No, I'm asking you.
I do not know.
When this person who bought the quote pipe shop
Mhm.
and they applied for a license from the township, what did they determine or put on their license or application for the township?
Convenience store?
Convenience store. They didn't apply as a smoke shop. Yes or no?
Yes, but a smoke shop, right, is any retail store that sells more than 20% tobacco, vape, or other products.
But they applied for a convenience store, correct? Not a smoke shop.
I wouldn't say it was exclusive.
I'm asking you, what was the application?
The
What-
application written, right, was convenience store.
Convenience store. And what is a convenience store?
I can look and see if we have a definition
You don't, do you?
for convenience store. Off the top of my head, I don't know.
And you went in the store,
Mhm.
and what's the name of the store, the address of the store we're talking about, the pipe shop?
Jackpot Convenience.
Let me show you these pictures.
Mr. Chast, while Mr. McCreesh is preparing to ask you these questions, is Jackpot Convenience is a different location than 6948 Market, correct?
Correct.
That's the, yeah.
I wanted to.
You recognize that first picture?
You mean the existing?
Yes, yeah,
Tell us what it is.
looks like candy.
And do you recognize where it is by any chance?
A2.
Was a smoke shop.
Mr. McCreesh, we'll mark this as A2.
Looks like it's by the door in this picture, or by a door.
And would that be in the quote, Jackpot Convenience Store? Is that what they call it? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
The old pipe shop, as you call it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's candy, correct?
That's candy.
And then the next picture, can you tell us what that is? Sorry, staple
No, that's fine. Looks like there's a series of snacks and sodas.
snacks and soda.
Mhm.
That's continuing down that wall, that left-hand wall as you walk in, is that correct?
The next picture is also snacks, sodas, and drinks.
And the next picture is a larger picture of the snacks, sodas, and drinks, is that correct?
Yep, same wall, snacks, sodas, and drinks.
And the next picture is the other wall from the Coke machine over
Yep.
showing,
It looks like a combination of cleaning products and dry goods.
and the next photo is a close-up again. of
Close up of the same wall.
The next is a close-up of the same wall. And then after that is a picture of,
Looks like it's a combination of medicine and then tobacco products.
all right. And did you measure that one shelf there as part of your 20%? Has tobacco products on it?
I would have, yes.
You did, you measured that one shelf.
I would have included that as being part of the 20%.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I mean, and then this next shelving here that's,
I don't know what it all is, but it
Well, let me
is
just tell you that
tobacco
it's-
products. It looks like
they're all
hookah.
tobacco products.
Yes.
All right? That's one shelf, correct? Did you measure that in to your 20%?
That's correct.
And the next,
It looks like it is also tobacco, vape, and products with some candy at the very bottom.
so the top three shelves are tobacco and the bottom three are candy?
No. Looks like the bottom three are candy and the rest is tobacco
I thought that's what I said, I'm sorry.
or tobacco accessory products.
So we have one shelf which has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shelves of tobacco products. We have another shelf that has one, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 shelves of tobacco.
You've lost me on the picture. Where are we?
That was one picture, this picture here.
Let's make sure we're on the same. Yeah, we're on different pictures.
Yeah, you got
Okay, sorry.
9, right, because the bottom is something else. Or maybe it isn't.
I'm not sure.
Either way. So
Starlight?
Let's say it's 1,
Okay.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 shelves, 3 before is 12.
Okay.
And then the other shelf that we had there that had the top 3 on it, that's 15 shelves out of this entire store, you say equals 20%.
You say top three or top six?
Which one you looking at?
I moved to the next page, right?
That's the one we just counted. That was the
This is
9.
6. No, I thought we did count the 9 being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oh, okay, good, 9, I'm
And then
sorry.
this is right, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6, okay, 9, 6, 15, and the other 3, 18. So there's 18 shelves that are devoted to tobacco products, right?
Where was this next page included in that count?
Which one was that? The last page?
This shows lighters and then also cigars. Looks like wrappers. Blue ice. I'm not sure what that is.
Well, you tell me how many you,
In this last picture?
in the last picture, you have lighters and
Mm-hmm.
lighter fluid, they're not tobacco.
On that side. What if that would count? So I'm looking right? Specifically, so it looks like this is a whole row of tobacco products. And so,
Right, there's three there, but I'm saying the
Okay.
other ones are,
right, the other ones are, right, lighters. Yeah, those all look like other stuff.
so you determined then that that amount of shelves was 20% of the shelf space? Or is it of the floor space?
20% or more of the total merchandise.
Total merchandise?
Mhm.
And how do you determine merchandise?
I determined it by looking at the amount of walls,
No matter what?
the wall space, how many walls were devoted to it.
Or how many walls were devoted to?
Out of the 5, 2.
Pardon?
Out of the 5, it looked like 2. 2 walls were devoted to tobacco products.
Two?
Yes.
And what were the 5 walls?
For the record, I did not count every piece of merchandise.
Well, I didn't.
So I believe you have the back wall behind the cash register, the wall in front of that, and then the other 3 walls on each side of the shop, right? So you have a left side, a back, and a right.
And there are 4 walls. And you're telling me that those 5 big coolers in the back loaded with soda are the equivalent of? Just that you're saying the space that it takes up, is that what it is? Or-
I was just doing it by wall. So there's 1 wall dedicated to convenience, 1 wall dedicated to convenience, 1 wall, or soda convenience, and then 2 walls dedicated to tobacco, 2
That's not
displays.
what that's not what the code says.
I was using it to make a rough estimate.
So it's entirely rough estimate.
Okay.
So it could be 10%, it could be 20, it could be 30, it could be 40, it could be anything.
Yep, it was my determination that it was at least 20%.
At least,
Yep.
by counting the walls.
That's how I went about making my determination.
But that's not what the code says. Correct?
Mr. McCreesh.
All right, look. I guess you got the point. And nothing further.
Are you finished your questioning of Mr. Chast?
Yes, yes.
Mr. Tunis, do you have any questions for Mr. Chast based on his testimony regarding the Jackpot store? Just questions related to the Mr. Chast testimony about the chat. You're welcome to, but,
My questions are more for the department.
okay. Mr. Chast, that's all you had based on the board's directives, correct?
Correct.
Okay, Mr. McCreesh, we'll turn it back over to you for any additional evidence you'd like to present.
Well, there's no evidence other than the fact that it isn't 20%. They didn't apply for a tobacco shop. The place before it was not a tobacco shop, and there's no evidence that it was. Just because it was called the pipe shop doesn't mean it was a tobacco shop. And it's, if you look at the township records will never say that it was a tobacco shop. So there can be no grandfather in here, whatever you want to call it. This place has to stand on its own. And when they applied as a convenience store, not as a tobacco shop.
You're talking about this, not the property in question.
Well, the property.
You're talking about that second property.
Well, our property is definitely a smoke shop, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mention it. We're definitely a smoke shop. We're saying that the other property is not, so therefore we're allowed,
Okay.
because we're, whether it's within you're trying to knock us out because it's within 500 feet.
And what was the, just for my clarification, I couldn't remember from last time, what was the existing building what was its use previously? For
69?
6948 Market,
6948 Market, what was it?
Beauty salon.
was a
It was a
beauty
beauty
salon.
salon.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any further testimony or anything else? Okay, Mr. Tunis, is there any testimony you or evidence you plan to offer? Yes.
Thank you, Hafiz Tunis.
Are you going to testify then? Because we'll need to swear
Yeah.
you in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
You can proceed.
Okay, so I have a couple questions and a testimony, if that's allowed.
Sure. I mean, you weren't present for the last hearing.
Yeah.
So we'll afford you the opportunity to ask the applicant questions, but if it goes beyond
The scope.
the scope, I'll stop you.
Okay. What is the proposed name of the location?
Yeah, we can consider him sworn from the last proceeding.
What is the proposed name of the location? A1 Smoke Shop. Okay. How many adjacent businesses sell tobacco to this store?
For my store,
Jason, it'd be next.
might be the all convenience store, they sell small tobacco product.
Okay. And Mr. Chast made his observation. What would you say the percentage of your store's inventory is tobacco?
100%.
Okay. So this location already has 4 locations next to it that sell the same item in a proposed location. This location used to be a modern.
Are you done with your question?
I'm sorry, yes.
Just as long as the applicant knows they're done.
Okay.
You can proceed with your own testimony.
I apologize. I don't know if you guys watch council meetings. It's a little different. But this location is replacing a modern hair beauty studio, which was a school. There's 4 adjacent stores that sell the same products. There's a beer distributor. There's 2 convenience stores on the same street. Now, someone that lives in the neighborhood, I'm not sure if that's even great for business for the person coming in. There's a lot of competition. Also, the gentleman just stated that he said 100% of his inventory is tobacco on the record. So if in December of 2021, council revisited these zoning laws for a reason. They revisited it because there was a rise and there was less competition and residents deserve more, right? That A1 Smoke Shop could be a juice bar, a vegan restaurant, a bistro, something that enhance the community and bring the property value up. So I'm really in opposition of this. It was one of the reasons in my other hat, I voted to put parameters in place like the 500 feet distance. And I do know that we're going to revisit and keep visiting to make businesses more equitable in the township. Having 4 convenience stores or smoke shops on one street doesn't really help our community. And I understand the zoning board position, and sometimes you have to take into account what exactly it says, but I'm just trying to give you insight. These stores tend to sell flavored tobacco. They tend to sell items that aren't even FDA regulated yet. So that's a major concern when 69th Street, the transit capital of Delaware County, a big part of the township, a business like this can bring down the value of probably the biggest commercial district in the township. So, and not to mention kids walking up and down Market. A lot of these products are geared towards young people. That's why the FDA banned flavored vape products, only tobacco or methanol. And I think that you should really consider what you're adding. You're not helping the business owner by approving this. You're not helping the residents, and you're not bringing up the property value in Upper Darby Township. So I'm in opposition of this, and I just wanted to leave those remarks. Thank you.
So, Mr. Tunis, Mr. McCreesh will now have the opportunity to ask you questions.
Understood.
You're against it personally, correct?
Pardon me?
I say you're against this shop personally, correct?
Against the shop, I would say personally, yeah. It's fine.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Tunis? All right, thank you, Mr. Tunis. I believe that oh,
I think I do.
okay. Just in time.
Sorry. Okay, so were you familiar with the previous business at the Jackpot convenience store?
No, I have never visited the Jackpot convenience store, but just based on the testimony I just heard, the person that's going to own the business says, no matter what we saw in those pictures, 100% of the items of his inventory will be tobacco products. So that's something you just can't let slide.
Yeah, so the Jackpot convenience store is in the location of the former pipe shop.
Right.
Are you familiar with the pipe shop at all?
No, what would be the address? There's a lot of pipe shops in my
I think
district.
he's not familiar, so
No. What?
I think it's beyond what he testified to.
Okay, all right, never mind.
Sorry. Anything further from the?
That's not what it is now. That's not what it is.
Hold on. I think that we have other parties in the audience who were recognized during the last hearing. Were there any questions that, and I just noticed you, so I apologize. Did you have any questions for, we're gonna, just to make sure you're heard, Mr. Chast, were you here for Mr. Chast's testimony about Jackpot? All right, did you have any questions for Mr. Chast, for the applicant, or Mr. Tunis? And I believe you were both recognized at party status, correct? So you'd have to come forward. We'll consider you sworn from the previous hearing, but if you have any questions based on what was testified to tonight. Okay. Just speak into the microphone, please. Thank you.
You didn't actually measure at this time the distance from Jackpot Convenience to his establishment? You were going by the Google?
Right, yes. Last time I used Google Earth, and I went from using US standard foot distance to distance, and it was
Still
I was under, yes. I did that in the last meeting. I believe it should be in the minutes as well,
Okay,
or in the record.
all right. I just wanted to make sure you did that part of it. Thank you.
Okay, please come forward. And if you could, when you get up here to the microphone, if you could restate your name for the court reporter, well, please note that you're still sworn from the last testimony.
Okay, my first name is Sabria, that's Sabria. My last name is Kegler, it's Kegler. LER. I just have a question for you. I think the last time you said that your store would sell several different things, like small, like soda, chips, grocery items, folks would be able to pay bills and things like that. But now you're saying your store will be 100% tobacco. So is it the first thing that you said before, or is it now switched to just selling tobacco?
So before we said that, but I like to do that. But once I went to the Jackpot convenience store, he sell the cheap soda and the small groceries and everything. I don't want to do with the competition with them. He sell chips and soda. That's why I changed my statement. Today, I want to sell just tobacco product. I don't want to be a competition with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I do have a question for Josh as well. So based on the information that you gave before, the rule is that there cannot be two establishments within 500 feet from each other that are both considered a smoke shop. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And I wasn't able to see the actual footage, the actual photos, but I actually went there and actually saw everything. So based on what you saw when you went to the Jackpot smoke shop, or whatever you want to say it's called, does meet what you would say is a 20% of their actual stock is tobacco products.
That was my determination.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Are there any other questions, Mr. McCreesh, based on those questions? I'll give you the opportunity. Okay. Mr. Tunis, do you have any other questions based on those questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Just want to expand on a tobacco question. So, will the
Who's this question directed to? I'm sorry.
the
applicant? Okay.
Yeah, the applicant. I'm sorry. Will the smoke shop sell like flavored jewel pods or flavored vape?
Yeah.
Will they also sell loose cigarettes?
No.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Are there any other questions from the board? Madam Chair, I believe it appropriate to ask for public comment at this time.
Any other public comment that maybe is not party, but would like to make a comment?
Please come forward and state your name, and you'll be sworn in by the court reporter.
Hi. Sure. Yes. My name is Michelle Billups. No, Billups, Billups. So I just want to read a little bit about a study that the National Institute of Health done about smoke shops. There has been a study in 2018, I'll speak into the mic, that says that smoke shops and vape shops, we found that vape shops are more densely distributed and are in close proximity to schools in school districts with higher proportion of Asians and Black or African American populations. Just want to go to make sure that I'm trying to get my point across. This raises concern about environmental justice. EG is achieved when all people have equal protection from environmental and health hazards and live, work, and go to school in healthy environments. Eliminating differential exposures to environmental health hazards among minority and low-income populations is a strategy. I apologize. Eliminating differential exposures to environmental health hazards among minority and low-income populations is a strategy for reducing health disparities and promoting health equities. Therefore, EG assessments examining tobacco retailer density and proximity in minority and low-income communities aid in tackling health disparities due to tobacco use among youth. So I think that having this vape shop in this area that's in close proximity, I don't care if it's a 10-minute walk, a 2-minute walk, or a 5-minute walk from the high school or the middle school, is a bad idea. Because youth will come to use your products, sir. So I think it's a bad idea because health disparities, we know is a real thing, and it just not need to be there. So that's my testimony. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
So you already testified, so
Closing statement?
okay.
So tonight, we heard the applicant say they'll sell products banned by the FDA. They'll have 100% tobacco products in their store. They recognize that their neighbors sell the same products. So when you're forming your decision, or however, those are things we need to think about. This doesn't make our township better. Zoning is one of the powers we have in local government to make our township great. And I think bringing in businesses like this, like I said prior, doesn't help the township, doesn't help the average resident or the business owner. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess, is there any other public comment for people who aren't parties? And because we've afforded Mr. Tunis the opportunity, are there any final statements that any of the parties would like to make?
I did it. I just want to say, I think I've made myself clear about how I felt about being opposed to this, only because we already have 6 in District 7. And on Market Street, there are 2 other ones, so those are already within 500 feet. I don't know how they got open, but they're open. His would be the 3rd on that block of Market Street. We just don't need another one. Jackpot Convenience, I went there the night after the first hearing we had in September. I videotaped it. They said they are a smoke shop. They said they didn't put smoke shop on their name. I spoke to the owner, who's supposed to come here tonight. We just don't need another one this close to where I live at. If I walk that way to walk to the L, and I'm going past 234, beer distributor, there are too many things coming into this community, as Mr. Tunis said, that are not conducive to a great neighborhood. And, you know, my whole thing with this is, as I said in my testimony earlier, when recreational marijuana becomes legal, because it will, we're gonna have an abundance of smoke shops in this community selling marijuana legally. And we won't have 5 bars on a block, so we shouldn't have 5 smoke shops on a block or on each corner. And I think we need to be cognizant of what we're allowing into this community. Thank you.
Board was going to step into executive session.
Okay, we will go back on the record. I guess I will make a motion, and my motion is based on the fact that I think there was questions raised on whether the Jackpot convenience store has 20% smoke shop or not. So I do believe there's a question on that. I do believe that it appears to be a convenience store. So I will make a motion to approve the application of 9-1 of 22. Do I have a second? I second. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Let's just move quickly.
We will move on to, yep, we will move on to Appeal 10-1 of 22. Application of Manuel M. Miola for a variance from Section 550-33B5 to permit parking in the front yard of a residential dwelling. The property is situated at 108 Englewood Road in Upper Darby, PA. It's the R3 Residential District, and it's in the 4th Council District.
Before we begin with testimony, the board will mark exhibits. ZHB 1 will be the application packet. ZHB 2 will be the notice photos. And ZHB 3 will be proof of publication. Is the applicant here?
Okay. Can we move on to the next one? or-
Let's give it half a second and then if Josh lingers long, we'll move on.
We'll wait to see if the applicant is here.
I guess
We'll
we'll
give them
say, are
a
the
minute.
Fawkes here? Okay, we got the Fawkes and we have Borough 318 Borough. Okay,
Okay, well,
do you, so the
Based
the
on
board
the-
has two options.
yeah.
The board can consider a no-show and base it solely on the application, or the board can continue this to either November 9th or November 22nd, and give the applicant another opportunity to show up.
What's that? Well,
Why did
I
it get
mean,
moved? This was always on the 25th agenda.
So the last two were, it had to be within 60 days. We had a township error. It wasn't able to get onto the agenda
So this was supposed to be a September application?
originally, but yeah.
Okay.
well, I mean, they didn't appear, so I,
They had notices. on
Right.
the property.
And
So-
actually, they were sent a notice of hearing from the solicitor's office stating the date and
Date.
time of the hearing.
so I will make a motion to deny application 10-1 of 22. Do I have a second? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, we will move on to application, what are we, 10-2 of 22. Application of Rowena, sorry, and Derek Falk for the variance from section 550-8A, table 3-1, to permit a banquet facility in a C1 commercial district. The property is situated at 635 Long Lane in Upper Darby, PA. It's in the C1 commercial district, and it's in the 6th council district.
So before we begin testimony, the board will mark the following exhibits. ZHB 1 will be the application packet, ZHB 2 will be the notice photos, and ZHB 3 will be proof of publication. The applicants are here. Are there any other members of the gallery? I don't even think we have any other members of the gallery at this point requesting party status. Seeing none, if you can come forward, state, and the court reporter will swear you in.
Hi, I'm Rowena Falk, Rowena. F is in Frank, AULK.
And I'm Derek Falk.
Can you both raise your right hands, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
What you want to do, why you need relief, et cetera.
Well, we own a daycare directly next door. And due to the pandemic, we're suffering. We have daycares also in Philadelphia, and we lost a lot of children. So we're just trying to stay afloat. The building is directly next door. We don't have any neighbors. There's a lot with a dumpster gated on one side, and our daycare is on the other side.
We have two buildings next to it.
Yeah, so we do a lot for the community engagement. I just did a Million Kid March in Philly, all over the news and everything. I do a lot on Long Lane for children. They have nothing to do. We try to give little parties inside the daycare. Parents have nowhere to go. So we also, the building was used for the judge, the council people years ago. I had it like 10 years. It was a church. And we try to do a lot of things with positive impacts. So I just wanted to do like small, intimate things. And I thought banquet was bigger than my vision, but that's the only thing it fell under. So I really wanted to do little things like little small weddings, like 10 people, or little kids parties, things like that. Right now, you pretty much have to go to Philadelphia, and we know how bad that is. You know, maybe drives for like clothing, because we buy a lot of the kids clothes, the parents, we try to feed them, just a place to be able to do smaller functions. So when I talked to Josh, I'm like, I don't want to do banquets, but we kept trying to figure out where to put it. And that's basically what we had to put it under. We've been there 12 years, very, known in the community. Parking's not an issue. We have a free parking lot, which is across the street. But right now, the building, we pretty much used it for like storage. And now that things are tight, we have to try to make another living. So we didn't think it would be like a big thing. And we obviously applied. And then once we had to go under that category, we had to come to zoning. As I said in the past, when I had it years ago, I had a council person's grandchildren, so they always used the building without zoning for free. So we would like to do a lot of neighborhood things like that. And in Allow, we had a meeting there for the Upper Darby police chief. And again, we would like to use the building for whatever community engagement we could, but we also want to be able to do functions. We have no intentions of being there late night, none of those things. So that's pretty much, we have a building, we have to be able to do something. Every restaurant open closes within a month, 2 months. It's dead. There's nothing on Long Lane down. We're on the other side of Marshall Road. So it's not impacting anything. There's nothing there. The children have nothing to do, nowhere to go. And so we just felt like we have to do something. And of course, we want to try to make a living as well off of the building. Otherwise, financially, we're stuck with the 3 buildings, which is why we had to buy them, because he was having a problem. So he said, buy them or I'm selling them. So if he would have sold them, I would have lost the daycares, because he sold all of them as a whole. So I couldn't buy 2 buildings. I had to buy all 3. So that's really where we're at.
So I think maybe the board will ask you some questions, and maybe we can
Okay.
narrow this down a little bit. Before they do that, for the record, let's mark the notice of hearing as ZHB4. And if we can also supplement the record for 10-1 as ZHB4 notice of hearing. So does the board have questions?
Yeah, I had a question, I guess it sounds like, well, let me ask you first. So it sounds like you kind of want to create like a community center almost where you do different, because you said you don't want it to be a banquet hall. You want to kind of.
Well, I just thought, I'm sorry. I thought, yes, I do want to do functions, but I just thought banquet to me is huge. When you say banquet,
Yeah.
you know, I'm very honest. I wasn't trying to slip through the cracks and open it as this, but really do that. You know, you can open it as an arcade. I don't want to do an arcade.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm very honest, so I'm trying to say, yes, I do want to do functions,
Okay.
but I also want to have a place where I could do community engagement. So, yeah.
So to follow up, so Josh, you know, I was looking at the code and it does look like community recreation centers, which kind of sounds like what she's proposing would be a permitted use. Where it's not really a bank, the way you're describing it to me.
I will be doing functions like little christenings, things like that.
Right, you're not hosting weddings or.
Yeah, just, you know, I'm not saying I wouldn't do a party, because I do want to do those. But a lot of that, I rent buildings to do it when I own one. It makes no sense.
When you say you want to do functions, can you just kind of describe for the record what you mean by a function? What would you describe as a function? Do you mean that people will have full wedding receptions in this facility?
Well,
just go with me here.
I guess I could have one. I could.
But is that your intention? Is that what you're
My
looking to do?
intention is to do anything on a smaller scale.
Like
Not-
anniversary parties.
Yeah.
Kids' birthday parties.
Retirement
you know,
parties, something like
retirement
that.
parties. And then just things for the community, because we do have the daycare next door. So once in a while, we want to just give something for the kids next door.
And
But
are you planning on having like an in-house like kitchen that would be, or
No,
it would
no
be like
cooking,
outside catering or?
if anything, it would be food brought in
Then,
and
yeah.
served. That's
No,
about
we
it.
don't want to do any cooking, no stoves, none of that.
So it's a hall
Yeah,
that for
Yeah.
either rental or for you to throw a function in.
yeah, we tried to find something to fit in the middle, but it was either this or nothing. We went through the whole thing like 1,000 times. So yes, we will be doing functions and stuff, but to me, when you say banquet, I mean, we talking full staff, 500 people. The building can't even hold that. And it was a church. So I tried to do it under religious assembly because we wanted to do little christenings and things like that, but they're like, you're not a church.
So if I asked you, if I read to you, a facility used to provide social and recreational programs generally open to the public and designed to accommodate and serve some segment of the community. Does that sound like what you are planning to do in this facility?
Could you read it again? I'm sorry.
A facility used to provide social and recreational programs generally open to the public and designed to accommodate and serve some segment of the community.
Yes, yes.
So that's the definition of the recreation center. So the ordinance, the zoning ordinance doesn't even have a definition for banquet facility, but
Well, what did we apply for?
you applied for the banquet facility.
Right. What? And that was under, so that means I can do a party if I go under that?
Well,
We'd like to hear from the zoning
Yeah,
officer
I
on
would
this.
like to hear Joshua's, I guess.
Because we went over this with Josh like multiple times, and he thought,
Yeah, that was.
because if I need banquet, I'd rather go under that. I don't
Yeah.
want to be
Yeah,
caught up with recreation, and then I can't do a small wedding.
I
don't wanna do
appreciate that.
Yeah,
That's why I would like, yeah, his
because he
definition.
thought that's what I needed
Yeah,
to do.
from when I read the definition of community recreation centers, my thoughts were recreation and not small gatherings. I get the banquet is not the perfect word. It's really a small event space, but when you're throwing small scale parties and ceremonies, I personally, and as a zoning officer, steer more towards the banquet being the better definition. That's just my personal preference.
It was hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no good.
There is
Because
no
there should be a middle there. There
I
should
know,
be a
there is,
middle.
and the hard part is there's no definition.
But I'd rather go higher than go lower, and then I'm in trouble. I don't want to
understand.
do that. So that's why he went with that.
That's a permitted use, though, in the C2.
Right, and I
Conference
don't
center,
agree with,
banquet facility.
I tried that, and he said no.
what? In the
Conference
C2?
Center banquet facility?
That's what I was trying to do.
At the table of permitted uses, and in a C2, that's a permitted use.
Isn't this in the C1?
Oh, it's a C1.
C1.
Yeah.
It says C, oh, that's a 1. Okay, never mind. I saw that as a 2.
That's exactly what I need.
Yeah.
So it is not a permitted use. Okay.
Like, we're about to do a children's prom, and I've already rented a building, but I have a building. I'm paying $900 when I already have a building, and what else am I gonna do with it? Because there's no, everything is a restaurant, a Jamaican store, and in 2 months, they're closed. The business is just in there. The parents is so excited, like, oh my God, we don't have nothing, nowhere to go for a party, nothing. So, I have 60 children next door. So, and it also helped me financially because right now I'm paying rent in a building that I have no use for. Well, mortgage, excuse me.
Is there a definition of it?
Well,
So would you consider the recreational
What
community
did,
center?
what did, I'm sorry, ma'am, what was it that you read?
yeah, but it's
Yeah, I think we're probably, yeah.
I think it's up to Josh.
And then look, there's a
like-
lodge.
So I think we're just.
It's almost like the banquet hall fits other definitions in the, first of all, there's no definition of banquet hall. But then there's also, Peg just pointed it out, a definition for a lodge, which is an organization that provides social, recreation, educational, athletic, and cultural activities for members. So you would have to be a member and their guest. So, I mean, I think the use, and that's a permitted use in that zoning district.
We tried that,
Yeah, it's got members.
Yeah, but it's got to be member.
right?
But I think the use is very similar to other uses in that district. It's just not completely,
One or the other.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we looked at all of them. He helped me a lot. He did. I think I'm stuck with the banquet, I think.
Okay, I think I'm okay. Is there any other, I think you're done with your testimony. Is there any other public comment? I know no one's really here. I will make a motion to approve application, what number are we on? 10-2 of 22. Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Oh my God. Thank you.
Josh.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Okay, we will move on to our final application of the night, 10-8 of 22. Application of U1, 318 Borough Realty LLC for the determination that the property is subject to a lawful pre-existing non-conformity to maintain more than one principal permitted use at the property. In the alternative, a variance from section 550-8B to permit more than one principal permitted use at the property in order to allow multiple tenants to use and operate the existing building and 4 separately maintained and designated spaces currently located and existing on the property. A variance from section 550-8 2022-33A to permit deviations from the minimum parking requirements, and in the alternative, a special exception pursuant to Section 550-33C1B to permit shared parking at the subject property in order to permit more than one principal permitted use at the property. The property is situated at 318 Borough Road in Clifton Heights, PA. That's the C2 Commercial District and the Second Council District.
Good evening.
Before we begin, the board will mark the following exhibits. ZHB 1 will be the application packet with addendum and other attachments. ZHB 2 will be the notice photos. ZHB 3 will be the proof of publication. And ZHB 4 will be the notice of hearing letter. I don't believe we have anybody in the audience to request party status. So please proceed, Mr. Miller.
Thank you. My name is Charles Miller, and I'm here on behalf of U1 318 Borough Realty LLC. They're the owners of the property, and they maintain space in the building that's on the property. I was before you earlier this year seeking relief with respect to this property, but it was the parking lot on the side, if you recall. And at that time, we were requesting relief in order to have a towing business maintain space in the parking lot. This board granted conditional relief, which was required the applicant to get a second accessory use or accessory off of Seacane and not use the Primos Avenue in order for their tow trucks and commercial vehicles. They were unable to get that secondary access, so they are now out. But during that process, the township zoning officer raised a potential issue with respect to this property. This property is a unique property. It's a huge building, and the buildings are all connected. There's spaces that are separately maintained, but it's actually one building connected. If you look through the exhibit packet that I've handed up, there's pictures of the property, which you can see that they're separate spaces, but they're all connected. So it raised the issue of whether or not it potentially violated 558B, which limits one permitted principal use to each lot. For years, this building has maintained these separate spaces. There have been separate tenants in there, and the owner wanted to rectify any issue that the township might have. So we're here before you this evening seeking either a determination that they can continue to have those separately maintained spaces and tenants in those for permitted uses, or a variance from 558B to permit more than one principal permitted use on a lot and allow the 4 spaces in the building to be occupied by permitted uses. Also requesting relief with respect to the parking, which would be a special exception from 550-33D3, which would permit shared parking. My client is not requesting any relief with respect to that parking lot. They're not renting out that space for a separate use. It would only be used as overflow for the tenants that are occupying the building. I did, in fact, speak with the council person of the district and informed her that I would make that statement on the record and to explain what we are doing. I believe that's probably why there's no one here this evening, because I know the residents on Primos did have concerns, but I think that alleviated all those concerns because it's not going to be a separate use for that lot as we had proposed previously.
Mr. Miller, not to cut you off too early, but was the Primos side of the property posted as well as the Borough Road side?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So with me tonight is Thomas Mooney, who also testified before you at the last hearing when we were here for the parking lot. I provided a packet of exhibits, which consists of the posting pictures, the deed, a public access map, a plan of the property, and Google Earth views from above, and the front, I'm calling it the front, which would be on Primos, which there's a furniture store there and a thrift store where people entered in apparently for that use. It's no longer there. And then the rear, which is Borough, which has the loading bays. So to go over some of those, I would call Thomas Mooney, who's representing the owner this evening.
Can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I have your name, please?
Thomas Mooney,
Spell your last name.
Mooney.
And if I may proceed, Mr. Mooney, can you explain to the board what your relationship is with the owner?
Yes, I've been working for Menu and Way for 4 years and 7 months as their sales manager.
And Menu is the principal of the owner entity of the building, correct?
Yes, yes.
And you work for T&D Manufacturing,
T&D Materials Manufacturing.
and they're in the space in one of the portions of the building. It's on the lot. Is that correct?
Yes, we are in the middle of the building, the long part that goes from Primos to Barrow. That's where our sales office is. And just off of that, there's a little section we use for our warehouse.
And what does T&D do?
We sell tungsten metal. Anything that somebody wants to make heavier, we can make it. From Pinewood Derby weights all the way up to nuclear shielding.
And there's a packet of exhibits that are in front of you this evening. If you could describe, if you need to use those exhibits, particularly A4 and A5, which is A4 is being the plan, A5 being the Google Maps overhead view. Can you kind of describe the building that's on the property and the separate spaces that are maintained on that property?
Yes, if you look at the five tab, the white roof part of the building is a warehouse. Right now, it's a vacant warehouse, which goes a little bit into that black. It's got 3 bay doors and 1 man door that goes to that section. The center from where Primrose Road comes up, that big section is the section we use for our sales office. Just to the left of that, before that white little strip, is another warehouse section. And then the part with the white roof and the other one, the 2 shaded roof, that's actually currently being rented right now to Rosati's Water Ice.
And do they maintain offices and storage in that part of the building?
Yeah, all of our spaces have offices for all the storage.
And do each one of those separately, are there walls that separate those spaces?
Yes, each section has a definite wall between them. The back part of the building where there's 5 bay doors, that was attached to our part of the building, but there's a wall going up there to separate those 5 bay doors and our section.
And do each one of these spaces have their own separate ingress and egress from the building, to and from the building?
They do. Every section has their own man door to get in and out of it.
And I have pictures of A6 and A7. A6, I think, is what the view from Primos.
Yes.
Right, and is that a fair and accurate representation of what it looks like even despite the signage, which is no longer there?
Yeah, the signage is different. The fencing actually looks very similar to what we have now. It did fall down when the Thrift Value Shop had it. We put the fence back up and also put the privacy mesh on it, as was required the last time we were here.
So the board, one of the conditions of the board's approval for the potential towing business in the parking lot required that screening for
Right.
the neighbors. And that
Correct.
was actually installed, correct?
Yes, it was.
And the owner of the property, U1, installed that. Is that correct? I believe.
Yes,
And
I
so-
did.
And so if you look through the second page of the A6, I think, it also shows that there was a furniture store there, correct?
Yes, before us, there was 3 different furniture stores. The most recent one was Diamond Furniture. And then Diamond Furniture moved out and Value Thrift Store moved in. And Mr. Daly sold it to Min. And then we moved in there in September of last year.
And the Rosati's, how long has Rosati's been in that portion of the building?
Longer than all the furniture stores.
And to your best knowledge of the property and the uses of it, has there always, as far as you've known, been more than one principal permitted use occupying that property, or one tenant, more than one tenant?
Yes, there's always been more than one, because even when the furniture store was there, Rosati's was there. When the thrift store was there, Rosati's was there. Rosati's is actually that big part. Actually, in the last picture there, there's,
That's A7, I think, yeah.
yes, A7. Those two bay doors and that man door, that's Rosati's section. And just from my construction knowledge, that's really a pole barn, but it's attached to our building. You can actually walk right through another man door on the inside.
And what kind of uses surround this lot that you know of? You can just name a few.
We have car repair shops. There's probably 4 of those. There's U-Haul and a storage center out back. Herbie's Towing, which does all the towing for the Barrow. They're across the street out back. There's a daycare on Seacan Avenue. A glass manufacturer type thing. I just see them taking stuff and put it on trucks, but it's all glass.
And then there's the residence off of
Yeah,
Primus.
Primos has the residence, and there are a few residents back on Barrow Road. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 houses, or 4 duplexes, or 2 duplexes directly from our building across the street.
And with respect to the parking, is there ever any issue with not having sufficient parking at that property?
No. Not so much that when Herbie's Towing has to every Tuesday pull their cars out of their lot for the Barrow to take the cars, they use our parking lot because there's so much extra room.
And it's fine, in your discussions with Men, the representative of the principal of U1, there's no intention to rent out that separate lease, that lot that we were here before the board, is that correct?
No. The only thing we're going to use that for is if we do end up having tenants and we do need extra parking, we may park our cars in the bigger lot and give the smaller lot to the tenant off there next to Rosati's.
In your opinion, if the board denied this request and you could only have one principal use in that building, given the large, the size of the building, that they're already separately maintained, would that be an effective use of the property, or would it be rendered somewhat unusable in certain parts of that building?
It would make it unusable. We have the building is 40,000 square feet. We use, I think we're using 7,000 square feet. So that would leave 33,000 square feet unusable.
Is for all these tenants, is there sufficient space for any commercial vehicles to access the property up from Borough Road?
Yes, they have to go down Seacan Avenue, which is with our loading docks now. All of our trucks, when we deliver stuff, have to go down Seacan and back into our Barrow parking lot, our Barrow loading bays.
In your opinion, would allowing more than one principal permitted use in those 4 spaces, so having 4 tenants in there, would that have a negative impact on the surrounding neighborhood, or otherwise prevent reasonable use or development of those surrounding properties?
No, the only effect it would have on the surrounding area is with all 4 of the spots being used up, we'd have more people there to watch that. We do have in the back of the building where the easement is for the train tracks. I go out there at least 2 times a day and I find homeless people back there. I found a shopping cart of stuff back there one day and it was just filled with hypodermic needles. So having more people there would stop that and actually scare these homeless people and the drug addicts away from the building.
I don't have anything further for Mr. Mooney.
Mr. Miller, before the board asks questions of your witness, can I ask you some clarification on the relief requested?
Okay.
So the first item is request for a determination that the property is, a lawful pre-existing nonconformity to maintain more than one principal permitted use of the property. Are you asking the board to recognize that the existing 4 spaces in specifically?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
and then an alternative, the variance. As for the parking request, the testimony so far is that the entire building's not occupied, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so are you asking the board to basically give like a carte blanche variance on parking for whatever will go into the building?
No, well, the relief for variance for the deviation of parking likely doesn't make sense. I think what makes sense is the special exception to permit shared parking so that overflow can go into the adjacent lot and they're sharing the space that is available, the parking lot space. So I think that's what I would request, would be a special exception to permit the shared parking. And I believe that's 550-33D3.
So are you just reprioritizing the request then?
Correct.
Okay,
So essentially
thank you
just
for the clarification. I just wanted to make sure we knew what we were considering. Go
I
ahead.
was just requesting that both lots, meaning there's a front lot that's off Primos, as well as the lot to the east of the building, that both those be used for shared parking amongst the 4 tenant spaces.
The paved lot and the dirt lot, essentially.
Correct.
Stone lot, I'm
Right.
sorry.
Yeah,
I know
it
there's,
does have stone on there.
yeah. All right, the board, I think it's appropriate for the board to ask questions this time.
Will there be any traffic going down Primus Avenue as a result of these parking spaces?
No.
I mean, I do think you can access because there's a parking lot there. And do people park, do some of the employees park in that front parking lot off Primos?
Yes.
So,
We're currently using the smaller lot now, so there may be a few more cars once, if we get completely filled up using that overflow lot. They might have to come down there, but it'll all be like personal cars.
but those are, yeah, employee vehicles,
Right.
not commercial vehicles,
Correct, correct.
So can I follow up on that, Bob? So the clarification is the 2 lots that they're only accessible from Primos, right?
Correct.
And so passenger vehicles would be using Primos to access the 2 lots.
Correct.
But your statement is that no tractor trailers or trucks of any sort would be using Primos. They would all use the loading bays or man doors on Borough Road?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, if you saw Primos Avenue, commercial trucks really can't get down there. I can barely get down there because I have a little oversized pickup truck.
I have a question about the determination for the existing nonconformity. Do you have business permits for all of the uses that are in the building?
Well, I
We're-
don't know what,
This has been something new to divide it up to 4, so we're going to have to get different business licenses for all.
Okay,
I mean, I suspect when the uses come in, they will have to come to Josh.
but they don't currently have them?
I don't
Because
know.
there's current
I
businesses.
know
in there.
Rosati's does, and we do,
Right.
but
Okay.
we're the only 2 in there right now.
So, okay, so, got it, okay.
So there's 2 vacant spaces in the building then?
Correct.
Right. I think, my understanding is that T&D does use one of the spaces for some things.
We use a partial spot of the one on,
Far.
let's go back to the map, which
I would
one was
think
it?
it's east.
5? Yeah, on 5, that, the part of that, the Google from the top, the black part of that is our warehouse. The other part is divided off to go along with that white part on the right. If that makes sense.
I have a question around the commercial vehicles. I don't know what they might be, but how do they actually access the back bays if they don't come down Primos?
They have to come down Seacant Avenue.
They do?
It's the
okay.
only road on that side of the street that a commercial truck is allowed to go down.
Okay, so right there, I'm looking at the map where you talked about the black roof. What is the street? I thought that those were train tracks, the lower right.
Yes, the train
What-
track, the train tracks are on the right,
Right, lower right?
on the, well, the top right of that picture is the train tracks. And then there's a road, it looks like it goes into a 90-degree angle.
Yes, and that
That
goes into
Seacan is the one that comes back parallel with the train tracks,
Okay,
and then Barrow starts on the 90-degree angle.
right. So what is this road? I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing. I'm on 5. What is, I don't see a street name right here.
That's Seacan Avenue.
So, oh, it
And
curves.
then Barrow is the one.
Yeah, but, okay,
On the curve is where they change.
okay. So the commercial vehicles would enter somewhere from Seacane here.
Yeah, from Oak Avenue to Seacan, down the Barrow, down Barrow.
Okay, Oak, right, okay, okay.
So I had a question about the parking. It seems odd that we would be making some sort of request when we don't even know what the use of the other empty lots are. Wouldn't the parking calculation
Well,
kind of dictate?
correct. That's why I don't think the variance for deviations from the parking requirements is permitted, but in order to share the spaces, I think, because it's not a shopping center, in order to share the parking spaces or the lots for these tenants, I think that you would need that relief. That's why it was put in there. Just so that the township couldn't say, well, each one of these you can't share parking spaces. It's not the traditional shopping center.
Right.
Because you have 4 different spaces in this one building, in order to do that, we wanted to be sure that we were able to have 2 tenants putting cars in this one lot. They already do it, obviously, but I think that's, might be,
So,
in order to make sure that they're doing it correctly under the township code.
so I guess the conundrum I'm having here with the shared parking request is that the shared parking isn't necessarily a permission under 550-33C1B, that's what we're requesting, right? Isn't necessarily permission to share spaces, it's permission to reduce the required number of spaces by 25% if shared parking is provided. So, and to be quite honest with you, in the C2, the kind of industrial uses that currently exist on this site, the warehousing and the metallurgy, are not even permitted uses. So we're kind of dealing in a combination of non-conforming uses and potential other uses that could have a variety of parking requirements. So we can't even conceptualize the number of spaces that could be required to approve shared parking to reduce it by 25%.
Right. Well, the problem becomes when you're saying it's a 40,000 square foot building. If you put that in, you would need, more parking than when you would ever require. The other argument is obviously, this was originally zoned, my understanding, talking to the former mayor, this was originally zoned industrial. It was changed to C2. So these uses, the argument would be that they are non-conforming uses, lawful non-conforming uses, could suspend use. That's just to kind of try to eliminate that particular issue. But if you look at even, they're not manufacturing in there, but if you put industrial uses, it's 1 space per 300 square foot floor area. So 300 square feet. So you're talking, that's a lot of spaces.
A lot of parking.
A lot of parking.
But council, just for argument's sake, if you have an existing non-conforming use in an existing non-conforming building, and all you're going to do is use it in accordance with the non-conformity, I think that's what you're proposing.
Correct.
Is any relief required from this board to let that move forward?
It was thrown in there just to make sure that there's not going to be an issue and that we're doing it correctly. Because I saw that the calculation would be, it's astronomical if you did it by, according to what it says.
But if it stays industrial and you fill these spaces with industrial
Right. Which is what
businesses,
is intended, which I think it can only be used for that.
your parking calculation is not going to change, right? And we have the provision in our code about if a non-conforming use then therefore requires more parking, we don't require more parking, right?
Okay, right, well, that'd be great, I mean, if the less relief needed is better. I mean, that's the only thing that they're gonna fill them with the uses that the building allows, which is, the warehouse, storage, that's what those are, I mean, there are bay doors, there's huge bays in the back of that.
Right.
And that's all you can really get it. It's not gonna be a banquet facility in the C2, I can tell you, in this building.
I guess my recommendation to the board, and you haven't even asked any questions yet, I just wanted to take care of the legal aspects of this, but I think it would be fairly difficult for you to make a determination related to the parking
We don't have
based on
good
this. So
reason.
my recommendation would be, and you can do as you please, but my recommendation would be that you consider, as shown on the agenda, A and A1, and not kind of venture down the parking path. But I think we're at the point where any questions of the applicant are appropriate.
So, okay, so this building used to be Barney Daly's Furniture.
Correct.
Correct.
At what point did the industrial uses
Again,
move in?
The industrial uses actually started back before Barney Daly had it, when it was a metal factory.
Okay.
And Rosati's has been there.
And then it burned down. Rosati's, I think, moved in right after the metal part burned down. Now, this is all, just to keep it clear, this is all hearsay I heard from our one neighbor that wouldn't give us the easement. He actually told me what the building used to be before Barney Daly bought it. That was before he didn't like me.
do you have any concept
None of these.
of what you'd like to put in there?
I was just making
What are your target?
The east side of the building, no. Right now, that's going to be that can only be a warehouse behind where we're using. The part between Rosati's and us, we have somebody that is interested in it, and they're a restoration company, fire and smoke restoration company. They want to put some offices, more offices in there, a kitchen and a bathroom, and they're going to use that part of the building for their parking. Because they have to, because of their chemicals. By EPA's guidelines, they have to be stored inside.
So the vehicles are inside, not outside.
The
But
most
it's sto-
parking,
Storage of their equipment, essentially,
Correct.
in the building, through the bay doors.
Josh, do we have any idea of when, or maybe the applicant knows when the zone, this property was rezoned?
It used to be, I think, what, industrial and shit.
Was it before or after the is it T and D?
T&D.
And
From what I under-
Rosati's were present on the site?
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
From what I was told, it was industrial before Barney Daly bought it. And then he got it grandfathered in somehow. So it stayed industrial while he had it. But then once Min bought the property, it went back to C2.
So question, and I'm not familiar, but was Barney Daly Furniture a manufacturing, was this a plant or was it a retail outlet?
The retail outlet.
It was retail, but in the back part where that white building part, white part of the building is, he used to manufacture furniture in there. I only know that because we were going to hire one of his former employees, and he told me all about it.
Just reading through the requests because it is very complicated, so. I'm going to make sure. I guess, is there any are you done with your presentation?
Yeah, just I would move in the essentially, you know, this is what it's been used for, essentially. We're just asking that it to be legitimate because the zoning officer brought it up, and the property wasn't subdivided. It's all one property. It's all one building connected. So I can see the zoning officer's point.
Is there any other public comment, or you're with the applicant? No? Okay. Okay.
I guess the question is, as the chair reviews the request for relief, do you want the board to rule on the parking issue?
I don't want to deny it for sure, if that's, you know, but I'd rather withdraw it, and from my understanding, that there are things related to non-conforming uses which would allow parking to be, you know, maintained at that space. So I'd rather have that than a denial, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I would suggest the withdrawal.
So I would withdraw those parking requests for relief.
Okay. Okay, so I will, let's see. I don't know which way to go. I mean, I guess it ultimately doesn't matter. I will make a motion to deny the determination, but I will, the determination of the existing nonconformity. But I will make a motion to approve the variance for more than one permitted use on the property.
Do you want that, just for clarification, based on the request, do you want it specific to 4 individual spaces permitted?
Yes, as the variance was requested for 4 separate maintained and designated spaces in the existing building. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That variance is accepted, all right, and the first part is denied.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, any more complicated? It's an early.
I don't think there's any other business.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other business, so I make a motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
See you in 2 weeks.